You're always in my front row. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Too kind. And I got a lot of information for you all today. So if you like drinking from a fire hose, you are about to take a big sip. So let's start with this, just so I know who I'm talking to. How many of you have read Fast Like a Girl? Nice. Actually, how many of you actually read it? Let's just say, I'm buying it, reading it doesn't mean this is the same thing. Okay. Okay, and we found out on Friday that a lot of you didn't look at the appendix, which I put some really good things in the appendix. How many people saw the lists in the appendix? Thank you. Thank you. So, okay, so I am going to start. Let's see how I control this. This is always, there we go. I'm going to start from the beginning. So I was in practice for over 25 years. I had a holistic health center that was multifaceted. It had chiropractic, massage, a lot of biohacks. We did a lot of oxygen, red light therapy, and we did a lot of detox, and we did a lot of hormones, and we did a lot of lifestyle. And when I was first in practice, I was like a little baby, 26 years old, and when women would come in to my office, they usually had one symptom. It was like, oh, my back hurts, or my thyroid's off, or I'm fatigued, or I have brain fog. There was like one. And it took about 3 tools to maybe put these women back together. And within about 30 to 90 days, these women were healthy and doing fabulous. So it was very, very simple. Fast forward 15 years into practice, and these women started to come in with multiple health problems. They started coming in with struggles with weight. Oh my God, so many people were like, my metabolism is broken. We're going to fix that one today, if that's what you think. So my metabolism, I think it's my thyroid. Can you check my thyroid? I think I got a gut issue. I can't get out of bed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not sleeping. I have depression. I have anxiety. I can't think straight. Anybody have those symptoms? Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Because you're not alone. This is what I really, really want everybody to understand, is that there is some reason that so many women are struggling with their health. And when I was first in practice, I saw a lot of people would come in and they would be like, well, whatever you're saying, I need to go check it out with my primary care physician. And it was like this relationship I needed to have with the primary care physician in order to be able to get the woman well. And then fast forward 15 years, and the thing that I heard the most was, whatever you do, do not send me back to my doctor. I need to do everything I possibly can to stay out of that office. They don't listen to me. They're giving me antidepressants, and they're giving me no solution. So you are my last solution, so do not send me back there. I started to dive in, and I realized that the women in my practice were not alone, that women in general were suffering. So these are the statistics I put in Fast Like a Girl. We have 41% of women over 21 are obese. I'm going to explain why today. We have high blood pressure. We have Alzheimer's is happening to us. We've got diabetes, thyroid problems. 50% of women that go through menopause are going to be diagnosed with a thyroid problem. We've got autoimmune. 80% of autoimmune conditions happen to us. I saw a statistic this morning that women are more likely to have PTSD from an event than men. That's low estrogen, by the way, and we'll talk about that. So, it's overwhelming how women are suffering. So, if you are one of those women that have walked into your doctor's office and you have been told that it's in your head, that you need an antidepressant, that there's genetic, that they don't know what it is, and they don't have any answers, you're a whiner, you keep coming back with more symptoms, today's the day I free you from that. Because this is what's going on when you leave and the man comes in, he's told completely different opinion. It's horrific. We have been grossly left behind. And the reason that I'm so mad about this is because I've sat with these women in the trenches, and they are mothers, they are grandmothers, they are community members, and they are suffering, and our healthcare system is sitting there with their arms crossed, not listening to us. When we look at the research right now for women, it's despicable. Like, I'm going to tell you a statistic that nobody talks about, that I think we all should be talking about. If you are a cycling woman, did you know that your cholesterol goes up in the front half of your cycle and it goes down in the back half of your cycle? And so you walk into your doctor's office and they draw blood and they're like, your cholesterol is high. You might need to look out for that. Did they ever ask you what part of your cycle you were in? Did you know that if you have a traumatic event and your estrogen is low, estrogen is neuroprotective? So if the trauma happens and you don't have estrogen to protect your brain, then that particular trauma is going to stick on your brain and in your body in a deeper way because you didn't have estrogen to be able to protect you. Anybody who's in a deep therapy over trauma, have you ever been told that? This is where we are dropping the ball in healthcare for women. And thank God it's changing. And to you guys, I just want to say, one of the things that was the most exciting for me about Fast Like a Girl is how you all just took it and you shared it and you talked about it. It's like my dream with Fast Like a Girl was we were going to crack open a cultural conversation, and we have. So thank you for that. That should probably be another thing we should say in here. We talk a lot, wherever I come around, we're going to talk about all the messy symptoms of menopause, and I love talking about menstrual blood. So if you are like, oh, like, I don't really like to talk about my period, well, today's the day that changes too. And if you're a menopausal woman that's like, oh my God, nobody's been able to like fully let me express what this suffering that I've gone through, I've had to keep it quiet, I want to also free you of that. So, because that's how we make change. And what's happening is that all of a sudden now, you all are waking up, and I mean that not in a like, oh, you were like any less than, but you're seeing what's happening, and you're starting to talk about it. And we're starting to see change happening here in this country where the First Lady's like, hey, this doesn't work anymore. Why aren't we researching medication? Why aren't we looking at the menstrual cycle? One of my favorite, and I always will, this was like the epitome of social media. Last year, I went on the Mel Robbins podcast, and she loved the quote that I said about how postmenopausal women could time their fasts according to the moon cycle. And I said in the podcast, if you listen to the whole podcast, I said, like, it's a theory, and I think it's a really interesting one, because we have to look at how women and nature go together, and there's no coincidence that the moon cycle averages 29.5 days, and a woman's menstrual cycle averages 29 days. Fascinating. So I say this to her, she clips it on a reel, puts it on Instagram, and this one person leaves a comment and says, well, I looked up the moon cycle thing that she's saying, and I can't find any evidence on there, therefore I don't believe anything else she says. And I wanted to just jump in there. You can't, by the way, respond to any negative things on social, so you just sit back and just close your phone. And so, but I was so mad because I wanted to say, and it was a woman who said it, I want to say, they're not even researching us like on blood pressure medication and cholesterol. They're not even looking at what's in menstrual blood. Do you know there's 4 toxins in menstrual blood? When you menstruate, you're detoxing. You're getting rid of plastics and phthalates and pesticides and forever chemicals. You need to be able to shed. We're not even studying this stuff, let alone the moon cycle. So I say this to say that we have been underserved by our healthcare community. And so what I did in my practice is I made a really clear line in the sand, and I said, any woman that's coming into my practice, we are going to master lifestyle. Because the healthcare, the goal, and this is still the goal, by the way, until they clean that system up, the goal is to keep you out of that system. So if I can keep you out of that system by teaching you how to improve your lifestyle, now we can move forward with your health. So what I started to do is I started to pull together all the women in my practice, and we would do monthly talks. So, and I would pick a different subject. I would pick like 1 month it would be on brain, next month it would be on thyroid, and we would fill my practice, and I would sit down and I'd say, okay, here are the blood tests you need to look at. Here's the lifestyle that you need to think about. Here's how you need to approach your health. And this became so crazy popular that all the women brought the women, because that's what we do, right? We like, when we have a good idea, we don't just keep it to ourselves. We're like, oh my God, this is amazing, you gotta know about this. So it's created this flood into my practice. It got so big that we ended up having to rent a church. And we would, a couple times a year, rent this church, and I would hold these huge events, and all the women would bring the women. And one of the things that I realized in that is how thirsty women were for two things. They were thirsty to understand their bodies, and they were thirsty to figure out lifestyle. And it's so fascinating to me because so many doctors will tell you, yeah, my patients don't want to do lifestyle. No, they do. I promise you. You just you don't have the time to be able to commit, and that's not their fault, but you don't have the time to be able to teach them lifestyle. So I'm going to do it. And that's what and by the way, hopefully you know this. Once you understand it, I'm going to task you to continue to put this information out into the world, because it's time that we take back our own health, bring it back into our own responsibility. So where we are in health right now may not be our fault, but it is our responsibility. So if you don't love the body you're living in, it's your responsibility. You may have gotten there because of a lot of things like I'm going to teach you today. And we can point a lot of fingers at a lot of people, but ultimately, today's the day you go, it's my responsibility. I've got to do something about it. I have to make a change because nobody else is looking out for you, except maybe me. Okay, second thing that I learned in these incredible mamas and women in my practice was that we are much stronger together. And when we come together in community, we start to thrive with our health. It's not just like, oh, it was nice. Like my office was a big party. Literally, like people would come in, they'd bring their kids after school, and all the women would meet. They had met at the talks, and now they were best friends, and they were doing things together. And like, it got to be a problem where I was like, the waiting room's really full, but those people have already like done their therapies in here, and they won't leave because they're all connecting to each other. And so I started to realize that oxytocin is the most powerful hormone we have, and we don't give her enough credit. So oxytocin, all of you that are smiling at me, thank you. You're getting oxytocin, I'm getting oxytocin. Oxytocin pulses in for a couple of minutes when we have a really cool human connection. And I will show you here in a minute why oxytocin calms and balances all other hormones out. And we walk around and we're like, oh, I don't have time for that. I know I have I said this on Friday at my pre-conference. How many of us are like, I had some good friends a while ago, but then like I got really busy with like my career and my family, and I just didn't make them a priority. And now you end up like me, an empty nester, and you're like, where did those friends go? I didn't put any effort into that because I was too busy.
I got another book for you. It's called Eat Like a Girl. You will now know for your feminine body how to metabolically switch. I hope it helps.
We walk around as a society, but women especially, and if you are this, I really want to free you from this today. We walk around and we're like, I'm so busy, so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. I know I should do that, but I'm so busy, so busy. I'm sorry I didn't call you because I was so busy. I'm just so busy. And it's like a freaking badge of honor that we're so busy. Busy actually destroys your health. And I'll show you why hormonally here in a second. So if you're suffering with any part, and I'm going to walk you through a thought process today, but if you're suffering at all with your health, and I heard this last night. I was at a dinner, and this woman came up to me, and she was like, I'm eating the right things. I'm fasting. I'm taking the right supplements. Like, I'm doing all these things, and why am I not getting better? And it wasn't the place to inform her this, but what I wanted to say was like, who are you hanging out with? In your day, how many bouts of oxytocin are you getting? Are you stopping and calling a friend? Are you prioritizing laughter? I started listening to comedies at the end of the day because I was like, I need to bring my oxytocin up. All those friends I had left in the dust when I was so busy, I now actually talk to them every morning. I have a little, anybody use Voxer? I have a really cool little like walkie-talkie system where I can like voice text message all of my friends in the morning so that I get my oxytocin. So I started to really prioritize oxytocin. The other question that I really saw clearly from these women is how many people say, I want to be healthy, but they don't really know what health is. I don't even think our health care system knows what health is. In the healthcare system, health is the absence of symptoms. That's not health. What happens to the woman who goes in for the routine mammogram, had no symptoms, didn't see it coming, and now she's got breast cancer? Was she unhealthy, or was she healthy on the drive to the mammogram? And then she gets the mammogram, and now she's unhealthy. No. You don't lose your health at the diagnosis. It was a process. It takes 7 years for cancer to build up in your body. It was a process that over time you got more dysregulated and more dysregulated and more dysregulated. So this is a new concept that I'm teaching now to my Reset Academy members. How many Reset Academy members in here? Just raise your hand. This is my membership group, my tried and true, and we've been unpacking this concept. I did a podcast on it. You can go listen to it. My podcast is called the Resetter Podcast, and I did a whole 1-hour lecture on this concept that I am now calling the dysregulation loop. And here's how it works. And you can enter in at this loop at any point in time. So your metabolic system goes off. You haven't been taught how to eat. You never knew to fast. Your hemoglobin A1C, which we'll talk about in a moment, is going up. It's over 5. You've been told you need to lose weight. By the way, how many people walked in their doctor? That's another one. They walk in their doctor's office and they're like, I have all these symptoms, and the doctor looks at their BMI, which is and was like done like back in the 50s. And I mean, everybody's weight should be different. The fact that we're like judging everybody off one average called the BMI is ridiculous. So then we end up with this BMI is too high, and all your problems now are because you're not losing weight. Anybody had that problem? That was really, really common one that the women in my practice came in with. And so what happens in this dysregulation loop is usually the metabolic system goes off first. And now all of a sudden you're putting on weight for no particular reason. You can't lose weight. The old strategies aren't working for you anymore. And your glucose and insulin balance is going off. Then you're upset about that because you're like looking in the mirror, and I'm just going to pick on weight loss today because we're going to unpack how you can lose weight forever. And if you don't need to lose weight, don't worry, I got plenty for you too. So, but we look in the mirror and we're like, oh God, like I can't diet, I can't exercise, I don't know why this reflection that's facing back at me is not changing. I'm doing everything to make her change, and I hate her. I just want to point out that this is happening in the mirrors of millions of women when they see their reflection. So if that is you, you are not alone. When we see extra weight on our body, what ends up happening is we think it's our fault. I'm going to show you today why it's not. So when the metabolic system goes off, now we're frazzled. Now we're stressed out. So some of us will continue to shame ourselves and knock ourselves down, which only raises cortisol. As you're looking in the mirror and you're like, God, I don't like that. What are you doing? Like, what is going on there? I got to look away. I mean, some women are like, I got to look away. And when you're looking in that mirror, cortisol is going up. The same thing, by the way, is happening when we get on our phone and we're like, on Instagram, we're like, oh my God, that person looks so good. That person lost weight doing that. oh my God, like, oh, they're doing that? Oh my God, how did they go there? What are they doing? They went on that vacation? Oh my God, look how happy they are with their husband. I'm not that happy. And so every time we're on Instagram or social media doing that, our cortisol is going up. And so you have one group of women that will stay in this freeze spot and they won't do anything. They'll just keep shaming themselves and comparing themselves. And then you have another set of women that come over here and they're like, I have to try harder. Any of those? I was that one. If I don't get a result, well then I should probably 10 times my effort. So this is what we saw in fasting on my YouTube, was like so many women started to not lose weight with fasting, and they were so frustrated because their husbands were losing weight, and that they started to fast 3 days, and their husband's like, look at my belly, and the woman's on the scale, and she's like, I gained a pound. I'm going to tell you why that happens too. And so what this group of women over here do is they do more. And so when they do more, same thing, they're amping up their cortisol. They're fasting. They're on one meal a day. They're like, I've talked to a lot of these women. They're like, if I could just master that one meal. Let me just master the one meal. I'm fasting all day, and I'm at the gym for 3 hours. And what they don't realize is that they're ramping up their cortisol. And every time you ramp up your cortisol, you throw off your nervous system. So even when you're sleeping, even when you're on the couch, your nervous system is so running you all the time because of where your thoughts are at. Okay, then we start doing damaging things to ourselves. Like, okay, we're going to go here. Ready? And no judgment, I'm just a strongly opinionated woman. My mom taught me that you're a woman, you have an opinion, share it. And so that's what I'm doing. Ozempic, the weight loss drugs. No, I'm not criticizing anybody that's on them, but we have a massive problem because what's happening with Ozempic is that food is staying undigested in the stomachs of the people that are taking Ozempic. And so much so that if a woman or a man has been on Ozempic and they go into surgery, they ask them to get off of Ozempic for 2 weeks before the surgery, because what they started finding was when they went under general anesthesia that they were throwing up their meal from days before it had never been digested. This is a massive problem to the microbial system. The other massive problem of the microbial system is birth control pills. When my 24-year-old daughter, when we were having discussions about what would be the healthiest form of birth control, she said, all my friends take the pill, and I just want to take the pill. And I said, no, you won't. Because every study I've ever seen shows that the pill decimates the microbiome. And we're leaving women on the pill for 20 years, 30 years. We're telling menopausal women they should stay on the pill. Meanwhile, it's destroying the microbiome. And in your microbiome is a set of bacteria that break estrogen down. It's called the estrobolome. And then we start putting women on antibiotics. I mean, we put everybody on antibiotics. Luckily, we're changing that a little bit. But then, as the stress goes up and the poor eating goes up and the shame goes up, that microbial system, you have trillions of beautiful bacteria in your gut. And you are actually more bacteria than you are human cells, by the way. And you have trillions of these, and they're like little pets down there. They're like, hey, you want to be happy? I'm going to make you some serotonin. Oh, you came in touch with a virus? I'm going to amp up your immune system. Oh, your energy's low? You know what? The next meal, feed me, and I'm going to break that down and put them into vitamins and move that through the system so that you can start to have more energy. These little microbes in our gut are so pivotal for our health, and we are not taking care of them. And we are going on medications that are destroying them. And I can't tell you how many women I sat with that we really had to work on bringing their microbial system back. And then once your metabolic system's off, then your nervous system's off, then your microbial system's off, your immune system goes. So once your immune system goes, and it'll go two ways for women. It goes like somebody sneezes on you, and you're like, oh, great. Now I'm going to have a cold. By the way, I just want to end this because this is a pet peeve. Just have to slip this in here. Nobody can make you sick. Only you can make yourself sick. So just so we're clear. You're a host to these unusual new bacteria that come into your path. So you're stressed out. Your hemoglobin A1C is too high. Your microbial system is totally depleted. Someone sneezes on you, and now you're like, it's their fault. No, we have 3 systems that are off. Or the worst that happens is that your immune system becomes overactive. And so now everything, this is what autoimmunity is. We start attacking Hashimoto's. Anybody have Hashimoto's in here? Raise your hand. Okay, look at this. Okay, now anybody have PCOS? This is another one. Yes. So these autoimmune conditions are your body attacking itself. There is a dysregulated immune system that has identified that there is a trauma going on in the body, and it's either a physical trauma like a toxin, or it's an unhandled emotional trauma. I just sat with Dr. Sarah Gottfried on my podcast. It'll come out on Monday. She wrote a new book, not a Hay House book, sorry. But I guess I can say the name. It's called The Autoimmune Cure. And the whole book is about trauma. The body starts to turn on itself. So when we don't handle these things, our immune system ramps up and it starts attacking itself. If toxins get in, it starts attacking itself. I can't tell you how many women over the last year in their 20s and 30s came up to me and said, hey, do you have anything in your book about PCOS? And I'm like, I didn't at the time. You know, when you write a book, sometimes you just write it and then you walk away and you're like, I don't know, I don't remember what I said. And that was like 83,000 words. Like, you want me to know what 80 said in 83,000 words? But when I read the audiobook, I noticed how many times I said PCOS. And I was like, so now I'm like, yeah, I do. There's a lot in there, because what PCOS is the body attacking the whole hormonal system. And there's a reason for that. So then the immune system's off, and now you don't have your metabolic health, your nervous system's ramped up, your microbial system's depleted, your immune system's either hyperactive or not working at all, and now your hormones are a hot mess. And you go into your doctor's office and you're like, you gave me the wrong cream. I need a pellet. No, I can't do the patch. I need a cream. Where am I supposed to put the cream? Am I supposed to put it in my forearms or my inner thigh? Because I think that makes a difference. So where should I put the cream again? How much cream should I use? And we have mass confusion going on with hormones right now. Just so you know, 4% of women in Japan go on HRT, compared to 50% of the perimenopausal women here in the United States that are going on to some form of HRT or bioidentical. We may want to take a lesson from their lifestyle. It's not because they're scared to prescribe it. There's something that they're doing. I have some strong suspicions about it. So then the hormonal system goes off, and then where are all my perimenopause and menopausal women? Nice. So our hormones get depleted, and when we don't have enough estrogen, you better not look at us right or wrong, because if you look at us and we are irritated now, you're going to hear about the whole last 10 years and how you irritated us. And I'm going to need to lash out and tell you why you suck. Anybody done that? See, I don't know if there's any husbands in the room, or any partners of, like, this is what's going on for us, is like, we have been storing all this stuff down there. And then we lose this neurochemical armor that protects it from coming out. So I've heard so many menopausal women that are like, I just say it now. I just say it. I can't keep it down. And I'm like, yeah, that's your neurochemical armor. It came down, and now you're like, okay, I'm going to really tell you what I think. So we try to meditate, we try to fast, we go on probiotics. We're out how many times do we do this? We're out for ladies' night, and one of our friends is like, yeah, I used to have bloating really bad. And then I was on Instagram one night, and this amazing supplement came through. And it said, if you take this supplement, you will not bloat. And so I ordered it, and it came, and you know what? It was right. First day I took it, and all of a sudden the bloating was all gone. Look at me. And then the other woman is like, well, fuck, I need that supplement. And so we start ordering the supplement, we take it, and then we're like, day 1, well, it didn't really work for me. Day 2, didn't really work for me. Day 7, didn't work for me. And then we turn and shame ourselves. It's not the supplement's problem, it's my problem. So be careful what you talk about at ladies' night. So we go around and around, and it's like a dog chasing its tail. And so we've got to come up with some solutions that are going to finally serve women. And this is why I strongly believe that the only answer is lifestyle, and it is multi-pronged. And with Fast Like a Girl, we started the conversation on this metabolic system. And you probably didn't know it, but we also had a conversation about your nervous system. Because when you fast in a rhythmic way, you are taking these cortisol surges, and you're putting them at the right hormonal moments. So you didn't know we were having that conversation, but that is exactly what we were doing in Fast Like a Girl. And if you haven't heard it, Eat Like a Girl is coming out in November. And it is a cookbook, and it has got a lot of front matter. In fact, a little more. When I turned it in, it was quite wordy. I guess I have a lot of things to say about food. So there's a lot in there about food. Some of you're going to hear today. So the metabolic system has been an incredible place to start this conversation of regulating women. But what I really want you to understand is that you are dysregulated. You are living in a world that I call a patriarchal pace. There is like, see more, do more, be more, and eat. You know, in all the foods, you're going to see what I'm going to tell you about the food system. Everything is dysregulating all of these systems. And so we started the conversation with the metabolic system in November when it comes out. The book comes out. We're going to go into eating and how we can eat differently. And then we're going to talk about this. The next book is going to be about this neurochemical armor that comes down for women after 40 and how we can deal with our traumas and how we can come into this most authentic, beautiful self that we deserve to be using menopause as a tool. So that will be the next one. But I want you to understand, if you think you're going crazy, you're not. You're just dysregulated. And this world has dysregulated us. Okay, so metabolic health. How did I start with metabolic health? For those of you who are like, hey, I just want to know, like, can I put butter in my coffee? I don't know why you have to go off on all this stuff. I just want to know, like, butter in my coffee, does that work? Anybody want to know that? Yes, the brave few. Yes, you can have butter in your coffee. And I had a woman literally like stalk me around my house and follow me to ask me if Kerrygold butter was okay to put in her coffee. No, Kerrygold butter is not okay to put in your coffee, and I'll show you why here in a second. So this statistic came out in about March or April of 2020 when we were all in quarantine. And at that time, I had a really interesting moment in my career because we had this really busy practice, which quickly got cut in half because nobody wanted to come out. I had to hire more staff to be able to like see people away from each other. We had fights in my practice all the time, mask, no mask. People were like, that person's not masked. Another person's like, I can't come in because these people are masked. I'm like, oh my God, talk about dysregulated. And so my husband and I actually spent the first 90 days of COVID just scouring PubMed. So PubMed is like Google for research articles. It's where you go to get the vetted research article. And by the way, because I know somebody's going to ask me, and you're going to go look on my Instagram, that freaking article that came out, or it wasn't even an article, it was Media Blitz that says that you're going to increase your chances of a cardiovascular event by 91% when you intermittent fast. That wasn't on PubMed. That is a fake article. So anything, every doctor knows this, every scientist knows this, that if you want to see what has been vetted as legitimate science, you go to PubMed. That research study is not on PubMed. I just did an Instagram on it, so you can go to my Instagram and look at it. So, but this came out that only 12% of Americans are metabolically fit. So what does it mean to be metabolically fit? So you need to have your hemoglobin A1C under 5. You have to have your blood pressure be normal. You have to have normal cholesterol, all of them, total, LDLs, triglycerides, HDLs, they all have to be normal. You can't have any signs of liver damage or any of the liver enzymes being high, bilirubin, AST, ALT. Can't have any imbalance there. And it's the circumference around your waist. So those are the measurements. And here's what's really fascinating. Just thought about this right now. All of those need to be normal without the use of medication. So if you're like, I have normal high blood pressure. I had high blood pressure. It's normal now because I went on a medication. You're not metabolically fit. So Ozempic right now, even though everybody's losing their midsection, we're not making everybody metabolically more fit because the actual language says you can't be on medication for any of those. Otherwise, you are not metabolically fit. And we only have 12% of Americans. Do you know that after the COVID, that number went down to 8.6? This is our problem right now. This is how we stop the dysregulation, is we have to fix the metabolic system. So, a good question, you ready? Everybody ready to be really mad? You're going to want to take some pictures here. A good question is, how did we get so metabolically off course? There is a chemical that they're putting into our food called an obesogen. How many people have heard of obesogens? Yeah, this is a good group. It's a good group. Obesogens are literally chemicals that they are allowed by the FDA, which, by the way, the joke within the FDA is the F is silent, and it is. F stands for food. They're more interested in drugs. And why would we have an administration that puts food and drugs together? That doesn't make sense. So what they are allowing these chemicals to pour into our foods, and they are making us fat. And I'm going to show you how that works. And I'm going to show you which foods they are. The other thing they're doing, and this should make you really mad, is these chemicals that are poured into our food system are acting as estrogen mimickers. And an estrogen mimicker means that they go into an estrogen receptor site. Your body thinks it's estrogen, but it can't use it like estrogen. And so since it can't use it, what it does is it stores it. And guess where it stores it? Fat. And if you haven't heard this, if those of you that are new to my teachings, if you haven't heard that all fat is excess. So when you're standing in front of the mirror and you're not liking what you're seeing, and you just translate that into, God, there's a lot of excess here. I should probably figure out how I can undo this excess. And this is where fasting really comes in. So it's throwing off our hormonal system. One of the most shocking, I did not see this. I thought I wrote a fasting book. I'm going to be really honest. I thought I was just writing a fasting book. And what I learned last year was that I wrote a women's empowerment book. And what I also learned was that our 20 and 30-year-olds are suffering. The number of 20 and 30-year-olds that have messaged me, that have reached out to us and said, I don't have a cycle. I can't get pregnant. This is because the place we have to start is with these toxins.
Okay, are you fasting and you're still not losing weight? Check out this video because you might be missing a key part of your fasting experience that's going to unlock weight loss. So if you think about it, all the humans that emerged out of that time have the gene that allows us to go without food, and that gene they believe is in all of us today.